Welcome to Pitch Your Startup, presented by Innovate. This is your host, Bob Shami. We're delighted to have our guest, Ilias Anwar. Ilias, thank you for joining us on Pitch Your Startup, and he is the founder also of Tapped AI. One of the reasons I wanted to invite, actually, Ilias, not just because his amazing creation, him and his partner, Tapped AI, but his energy, his drive, his enthusiasm. It just has all the, how should I say, the criteria, all the list. If somebody will make it, I know they will make it, these guys. They're young, they're energetic, they live in New York, and all they do, breathe, eat, talk, Tapped AI. And always promoting. I seen him on LinkedIn all the time. I said, you know what? Ilias has to come to the show and pitch his startup. It's not like he need another pitch. Everybody knows who's Tapped AI if you're in the business, in the music business. But you know what? I'm going to let him introduce himself, talked about Tapped AI and what really made him create this beautiful, amazing startup, and what was the vision behind it, and what they're looking to change or disrupt or help, and how they're going to empower artists and help artists and change the industry, more positive ways of doing things. Hey, take it away, Ilias.
Yeah, sure. My name is Ilias Anwar. I'm the founder of TCC Entertainment, which is a creative agency. And now I'm focusing a lot of my time as of recently on Tapped AI, which as of recently we just also rebranded to Tapped X. And I'll get into that a little bit later on into the interview because that just recently happened. Essentially what Tapped is that we're building a platform that revolutionizes the live music industry by utilizing AI to match artists with the ideal venues for them. So all in all, simplifying the booking process through a super user-friendly platform, which now allows musicians to be able to manage and optimize their tours and also booking shows nearby effortlessly. And so we're doing this with a data-driven approach, and obviously Tapped's whole mantra is to empower artists and to help them plan their performances. But as of next year, when we start to focus on the B2B aspect of the company, which I'm really, really excited to get into because we haven't talked about publicly, and Johannes will probably kill me the fact that I'm even talking about this because I promised him we'd be quiet. And as you know, I like to be very loud and talk about things. But yeah, I mean, obviously the first focus is musicians and performers for the B2C aspect of the company. And one can argue that, artists are also a quote unquote small business, but the way that we model it is our B2C product is for, musicians, and we've also started to see some comedians that have been using the platform just because the same system applies to them too. And with the B2B, I'm really excited because we're working on something very, very big. And if you get it out of me this interview, I'll talk about it, but we'll see. Maybe if I get excited enough. But after the interview, I would love to tell you and go more in depth about what we're doing with the B2B side of the company. And one of the reasons why we changed the company name to Tapped AI to Tapped X is because when we were speaking to so many different artists, every time we would get on the phone with them and tell them about Tapped, they were like, if I knew about this a month ago, I would have signed up. And so there was a lot of friction for people signing up through word of mouth. Although a lot of our marketing was word of mouth, we realized that we were missing out on a lot more opportunities because a lot of artists and performers thought that we were going to create a hologram of them and have their hologram perform on their behalf or steal their voice or steal their name, image, and likeness and have AI virtual versions of themselves go on tour. And when we told them that that wasn't the case, and this is a platform that just helps you get more shows or go on a world tour, they were like, I would have signed up a while ago. So we were like, okay, the name is a big issue. Tapped AI and having the name AI in it is kind of redundant and almost useless at a point because, 10, 15 years ago, companies used to be called like Improvement Mobile. Now every company just has a mobile compartment. You have a mobile app. You don't call it mobile. You don't call a company dash AWS. AI is just a tool. At the end of the day, we're solving a problem, and that problem is to help people get more tours and for them to also get more shows nearby and for them to just have extra money in their pocket. So long story short, that is the whole rundown on what Tapped is. The one sentence I like to give people as a takeaway is that we allow performers to create a world tour through their iPhone. But as you know, there's so much more behind that as well. And I'm really honored to be on here, man. The last time we spoke was about a year ago, and there's so much that has changed in my life ever since. And I'm really excited to get into it, a little bit more throughout this podcast.
Well, let me tell you something. I've been watching your journey, you and your partner, and it has been amazing. I have to say, it really has. Watching every step, and you guys always on it, promoting, creating new venues, events, and empowering artists with your messages and postings. You mentioned something about obviously, eliminating the middleman for artists. And artists, you always feel like they always been controlled and money and the pie been divided. So you pretty much really giving the keys to the artist and say, you know what, nobody gonna share the pie with you. This is you. Nobody gonna take any money off the top. This is you, and we're gonna connect you with the places to perform, whether it's a bar, or it's a local venue, or it's a there's an event or whatever it's happening. The matching system is amazing and brilliant, and you're also doing it with a comedian. This is another thing. Now, is there anything else also for motivational speakers, people who are always on tour, they give keynote speakers, and they travel and they always go? Is there a way also to add that to your roster and kind of try to match them? I know our show and it's about entrepreneurs and pitch your startup, but I know you guys focused on artists and helping artists, but now you bring in also another type of artist because comedians are an artist also. Any other genres of artists that are going to be able to join Tapped X or Dot X?
Yeah, so I mean, we like to call it, the overarching idea is calling them performers. But as you know, we have to focus on a niche first. And the first one we were focusing on was musicians. Mm-hmm. And it just so happened that as we were living in New York, the comedy scene is really big here. And there's barely any innovation on their side, especially the comedians. I mean, comedians are more broker than the starving artist. And so ideally what we like to call them is performers. In theory, a motivational speaker can come on the platform and they could sell out venues. It's just as of right now, we haven't seen anybody do that. I'll give you some context. I'm an event organizer myself. And so during Halloween weekend, 4 days before Halloween, we threw a Halloween event. And we went to this venue. I used it outside of the platform. And to be honest with you, with Tapped, we've been very quiet as of recently. Although we have been loud with everything externally in terms of my personal brand, in terms of throwing events, in terms of connecting with people, Tapped has kind of been silent, until recently where we came back after Halloween and we started making all this noise. But beforehand, we were working with somebody known as Abi, and Abhilash basically created the TikTok of India. He's a very, very wealthy entrepreneur, extremely successful, multiple exits, and he came out to New York for a bit to work on a company that I can't speak of, and I feel bad because throughout this whole podcast I keep bringing up stuff I can't talk about. But out of respect for him, I can't talk about that. But long story short, he brought me on to work with him for about like a week or two to help with creative direction and branding and help his app become more Gen Z friendly. A lot of people talk about their app being user friendly. What I like to coin myself in terms of my creative direction with helping some of these tech CEOs is helping them become more creator friendly or more Gen Z friendly. And he was like, you know what? We need a launch party. We need to make a lot of noise. We need to throw a party. Let's do something like a launch party on Halloween. 4 days before Halloween, we threw an event and we were going to do it at his office. And he told me it was okay. A lot of other people said it was okay. So the night before, I just checked with the security. The VP of the building in Soho calls me and says, what? You guys are throwing an event? And he said, how many people are coming? I look at my phone. I'm looking at the guest list. It says 900 people. On the phone, I tell him, 200 people. He said, there's no way. And he told me, he said, you will go to jail if you throw this event. So last minute, we canceled the event. We pull over to a hotel lobby. And I thought the Halloween event was done. We partnered with Red Bull. We got 25 hosts to be a part of it. We broke a record on Luma. This is the most amount of hosts that have ever been involved in an event. And there was a lot riding on it, and it was really a good moment for everybody because this was Tapped also coming back as well. As you know, we were quiet for a bit, although Johannes and I were making a lot of noise and we were working on a lot of different projects and throwing a lot of events. Tapped was on kind of on quiet mode because we're building something very cool for next year. And
which is around the corner.
Reason for that party shutting down really upset me. There was some money riding out. We got our first big sponsor as well. We had a lot of money riding on this event. And one of my best friends, Naral, who is also a power user, he got on Tapped. And while I'm trying to call venues and I'm taking a deep breath and I'm emailing people, why am I even taking this action? I literally have a platform with thousands of venues on our in the database. But the use case, the way that we market it, I even fell for that brainwashing, right? Because I fell into our own marketing, whereas I'm thinking, oh, I can't use this platform because this is for performers to get booked. He gets on the app, he goes to our location, he looks at something right down the street from the office, and in 10 minutes, he got us a venue booked. We go and check out the venue. The next day, we had the event. And so amazing. I'm an event organizer in that aspect, right? I'm not a performer. And I know it probably sounds like I'm making this story up to just sell Tap, like, oh, wow, in this moment where he really needed his own platform helped him. This really doesn't benefit me because we're not selling this to event organizers. But this did wake us up to the fact that when we do build out the B2B product, this will be extremely valuable to the record labels that will be in my position that also need to, book venues last minute, or for them to also be able to help identify the right places that they need to throw an event at. That's what Neural did. He looked at the capacity. He saw, okay, the office could only hold a legal capacity of 50 people. Well, let's go find something that can host around 1,000 people. Let's go find something that's right next to us down the street. I talked to the sponsors. We were willingly to talking to the sponsor, and they were telling us that they would be willing to spend a couple $1,000s. He just spent $10 on his subscription, didn't even use it for his own music career in that moment, and he was able to get us a venue, and it saved us for that Hollow Weekend event that we did. And that was a great event altogether. We had so many different performances. The sponsors came out. We packed out the whole venue, 3 floors up and up. I 3x'd my newsletter in terms of emails with that event. And it was altogether just like a really, really solid, not 3x, I'm sorry, 2x the size of the newsletter. And altogether it was just a really great event. And that goes to show that, to your point and to what you're asking me, is that anybody can use this. If you need a venue, whether you're an event organizer, what have you, unfortunately, that's just not our marketing right now. When we build up to the B2B, it will be for event organizers, it will be for record labels, it will be for venues, and we'll be providing a lot of data to make sure that they're making educated decisions like that. And even for myself, as of yesterday, I have a book called Cheat Codes that I wrote, and long story short, I think we talked about this in the last podcast.
Yes.
I've thrown around like 1,500 copies independently. And the way that I'm actually marketing my book, and I hope this publishing company does not steal this idea from me, and the reason why I'm saying this publicly now on the podcast is because I spoke it with them privately, and I'm afraid that they might take it now. So I need this as an artifact to prove that I came up with this before them.
Yes, it is.
You're a very successful guy in music. Look, Bob, and we're going to get to this point later. You're a rich guy. You're extremely successful in music. You're one of the wealthiest people I know. We're getting you to invest in our company next year.
Yes.
And
I will.
I'm going to give you a good deal. You're going to come in at a $100K check. I know you're one of our wealthiest connects, Bob. You're going to get involved with our cap table, but we're going to get into that later. But with the book, long story short, this is only 28 pages, right? So this is an individual chapter.
Why don't you do self-publishing? Yeah.
So I am doing self-publishing, and I'll tell everybody in here how they could do it themselves. So they can go on bookbaby.com, distribute it yourself, publish it yourself. And I'm very big on treating my tech company as if it's a independent music artist career, and even my books, right? I could have easily taken a deal. Through LinkedIn, I had a couple people message me, and they offered me some money, and they said, we'll make you the #1 New York best time seller. And I'm like, this is a 28-page book. We don't need to do that right now. The way that I'm marketing this, and I wanted your thoughts on this, is in the final book, there will be 10 chapters. But for each chapter, I'm releasing it as an individual book on its own. And so all the earned media value that I'm getting from each individual book, it's also incentivizing people to collect it. And instead of marketing one book, I'm now marketing 10 books into one book. And so where do we see this system come from? Record labels do this all the time with the waterfall method for singles promoting an album. So Correct. This is my individual single as a chapter. Then chapter 2 will be released as its own book. Chapter 3 will be released as its own book. And maybe chapter 4 might be the one that blows up. But then people are going to go back and find out that there's 3 chapters beforehand. And then they're going to find out that there's a complete book. And then people are also going to get into the idea of, once you buy the first book, why would you not buy the second? If you have the first, the second, and the sixth, well, then you might as well buy the third, the fourth, the eighth, the ninth, and the 10th. And then when the 10th one is done, that's when I'll release the actual book, which will have all 10 chapters combined, and they're all 28 pages. And 10 chapters times 28 is 280 pages. And that's when I would go to a publishing company and then say, hey, I already leveraged this myself. I already built up a community. I've already sold X amount of copies. I don't need you to give me a deal that I don't like. I took this method from Nipsey Hussle, Russ, 50 Cent. They talk about how you can go to a record label deal and gain leverage. And so I'm treating this as if I'm a musician and going to a record label, except with, books. I see a lot of people signing bad deals. And respectfully, I don't need somebody to give me money based on the leverage I have right now. I know that I've only released a book with 28 pages, so I don't have a lot of leverage right now. And although 1,500 copies individually is great, I'm doing that by selling this with cash. People are sending me some money on Cash App. The first 100 people I put in a spreadsheet and their emails and stuff. And I'm not going to lie to you, Bob. After that, I got lazy. And so now I barely keep track of the emails, the numbers, whatever. And that's what they want to see. They want to see the numbers. They want to see that you have that. And so in this second book that I sell, I'm going to have it be a lot more structured, and I'm going to hire somebody to do that for me because I don't need to give up, 50% equity and all these rights of the books when I can do it on my own. And so yesterday I met with somebody who for the first time didn't sell me on this dream of saying, we'll make you number one, you're going to be New York Times bestseller. Everybody can do that. It costs $50,000 to become a New York Times bestseller. If you have the budget behind you,
Yes.
you can do it. So what I really want to do is just build community. And to be honest, I don't care about becoming number one. I made this book because I was running a marketing agency and a lot of people were asking me for my help. And my price unfortunately went up, but I couldn't justify charging my friends or the people that are smaller artists X amount of money for my time. And so some of them were asking me for PDFs, and then that turned into a book, ebook, and then I said, you know what, let me self-publish it.
You know what? This is a true entrepreneur. He came here to talk about Tapped AI, which is turned to Tapped X, and then he talked about the cheat code, his book, the cheat codes, and his chapters and his plan. Then this is a true entrepreneur. I take my hat off for you, Ilias. Definitely, my friend, you will make it. And remember this day, you will make it definitely. And I know every step you guys taking is extremely positive. You're so driven. I even get inspired by just talking to you and having you on the show. You guys, since we talked last year, I know you guys have been self-funded. You have side jobs, you and your partner, doing it the proper way. I mean, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, extremely successful entrepreneurs, and they go through the same steps. They say the most successful entrepreneurs and startups are the people who self-funded because they wear different hats: marketing, development, tech development, sales hat, which is extremely important, which is your argument. You come to play the sales and marketing. And I know your partner does more of the tech and you more the sales and marketing. You guys are great, should I say, team together. But you were self-funded and you guys still self-funded. I know that. And at one point in time, I wanted to invest. They don't want to take my money. They don't want to take my money. I wanted to make my own deal. But you know what? I love these guys. Eventually, I'll be part of that team because I love what they do. So are you guys still self-funded or you're looking for money? You're on the show. Let's take advantage of it.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I want to get into this a little bit. I
Yeah.
have never had the most movie-like negotiation in my life other than Bob. Bob, I respect you so much because of how stern you are. And I think, Johannes, myself, we had went back and forth so much from 200K for this percentage, you came back with this percentage, we came back with that percentage, we came back with that amount. And I really respect you for the fact that you really like our vision, but it also has to make sense for you.
Yes.
And, a lot of people that we've met have said that they cared and said that they want to get involved. And I can tell that you really care about where your money is going. And we want those types of people that can also hold us accountable. I don't want to just take money so I can go out and vacation and go to Greece with it, right? I want you to know that when you're putting your money into our company, it's going into an entrepreneur and a founder that is going to give it their all. I will sleep on a couch if I have to. I will not fail. Even if it means that we have to get rid of our salaries to put more money into the company, we will. But I do want to correct you on something. We are not self-funded anymore. We did take a small angel round from some people that are close by to us. And this is one thing that I learned, and I have to give it to Johannes because in the beginning, when we first started the company, and I was like, you know what, let's just give up some money. Let's take like $1 million, but they want to take like 30% of our company, right? And now looking back at it, I would probably cry if we gave up 30% of our company for $1 million because you don't need $1 million for you to make a website. You don't need $1 million for you to create a logo. You don't need $1 million for you to get
You know
your
what?
first paying customer.
Just quickly, where most of that money goes, when there's $1 million comes in to somebody's new startup, they say, hey, we've just raised $1 million. Does it go to salaries? Where does it go? Fancy office? Nobody works in office these days. Back in the day, a lot of the money used to go on office and furniture, but not anymore. Everybody works from home. So where some of that money actually goes? And
Now,
then 3 years later,
I don't wanna
a lot of the
generalize
startups fail.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to generalize here, but
No.
from the startups that I have seen that have raised a lot of money,
Yeah.
like an extreme amount of money, especially in New York this past year. To your point, most startups, I guess, don't buy office space anymore. But from my experience, the startup founders that I have met, they do buy an office space in New York, and that is extremely expensive. And for us, we now have an office in Soho for free. And that's because of our craftiness and resourcefulness. And that kind of forced us to be in that box. I think when I told you originally, the first time that we had spoken, we had taken a 10K check. And then we got, 10 times that amount for what we have now in terms of funding. It's like low six figures into what we've gotten. And so that barely even pays us for salary. That allows us to basically focus on paying for the servers, paying for the costs of the company, occasionally contracting some people, helping run some of the events, and things of that nature to make sure that the company is running at a rate where we can at least survive, right? And we've obviously taken some other gigs as well, like some contracting gigs on the side. So one thing I do is I help with creative direction, and I'm basically getting paid to just speak my ideas and helping tech CEOs that do have money to become more Gen Z friendly or help them curate an event. So for example, I'm creatively advising two companies. One is called Block Convey, and they're an AI sandbox and a decentralized platform, and they're more so focused on blockchain. And then another company where I'm helping them, like I said, in terms of creative direction, I help them rename their company to become a little bit more Gen Z friendly, change up their logo, help them throw events, et cetera, et cetera. And so for that, I'm also getting a retainer monthly. And so we realized we didn't need to take more money for our company. I want to own as much of it as we can. Now, look, let me be real with you. If we took that million, we could do what other startup founders are doing. They're going on vacation. They're going to conferences. They're going across the country. They're going to music panels. But I can build it here. They can come here. Those same people come to New York, and that doesn't cost us a thing. And you know how that doesn't cost us a thing? Because we have relationships with these people that own venues. And now,
Yes.
as I'm throwing more and more events, it's so wild to me because I came to New York City 6 months ago. We've thrown about like 40 plus events, over 4,000 tickets sold across everything that we've done. This month, I'm throwing 30 events in 30 days. And so my idea behind that was just to be known at the forefront of the intersectionality of creator economy in tech and just get to meet as many people as I could in the event space.
And you're funding your own business, you and your partner.
How are we funding our business now?
Yeah. I mean,
We
you
still
are
have
also
some money left over from like the small angel investments that we took.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we're doing a lot of like contracting work. And so Johannes will pick up like a weekly gig for just like developing. He gets paid X amount of money. Now that covers his rent for like the next 4 months. Johannes is extremely talented and he's extremely educated.
Yes,
and I'm
he is. I
thankful every
spoke to
time
him.
for the
Absolutely.
fact that, he's choosing to work on this startup when he could go and be making a 400K salary. I'm extremely aware of that all the time. And I think him always allowing us to realize that has been really good. I'm like the rocket ship, right? He's like the anchor. I love big picture. I love big ideas, but he's also always telling me like, how can we think bigger? But when it gets a little bit too big, that's when he takes it down a notch and he's like, okay, we got to calm down. Because if it were up to me, I mean, look, April Fool's pranks, shutting down the company every 2 months. Now, as we pivot to Tapped X, we're maturing as a brand. We're leaving that baby blue color and we're only going to be black and white as a neutral color, and also having this new logo, which is like a killer whale. And, the reason why we picked the killer whale is because it's one of the most dominant, animals in the ocean. And it also can, navigate by itself, because being a musician can sometimes be a journey that you have to take on your own. But when needed be, you can also be a part of that community. And killer whales also can go in packs sometimes. And, they always call the music industry sharks, and killer whales, if I'm not wrong, I think this is the reason why we call them, is because they kill sharks. And
Yes.
It's cringy, it is, whatever it is, but you get the idea. We want to have something that kind of embodies Tapped, and we're starting to go in more of almost like a spiritual aspect of the brand. This is more of a maturation, no more shutting down, no more April Fool's pranks, but we will post something next April Fool's, but not as crazy as shutting down the company. No more gimmicks is what I'm trying to say. We're trying to be a B2B company that is respectful and can also go into these rooms with these record labels and be something that they don't see as gimmicky. And we done what we did. We had $0 in marketing. Sometimes you need gimmicks to get users. We don't have a $250,000 marketing budget. So we got to pretend we shut down. We got to pull pranks. We got to call out our users and call them funny names that get them to click on the app notifications. Sometimes you got to be resourceful. And that's one thing that I'm really thankful of, because like you were saying, if we, instead of taking, a smaller amount and we went with $1 million, I don't think I would be as hungry. I probably would have woken up today. I would have been like, you know what? I don't want to go on this podcast. Or yesterday I didn't feel good. I don't want to go here. Last Sunday, I was feeling a little sick. My allergies were flaring up. I just did not feel good. But I was like, you know what? I have to go out. Like, we have to raise money. I have to be active.
Amazing.
Because next year, I have no choice.
Yes. Well, you heard it first here on Pitch Your Startup. A true entrepreneur, Ilias Anwar, with his venture, him and his partner, called Tapped X. I love the name Tapped X. I can't wait to see the new logo and how it looks, and anything else you want to tell our viewers. I think, you mentioned a lot of positive and great things are happening. I definitely want to get a copy of that book of yours, The Cheat Codes. Definitely get your copy. I love things like this. only an entrepreneur. And if you look at his background, I lived in New York all my life. I'm from New York, and I know what an entrepreneurial, hardworking, hustling, they call it, every day in the grind apartment looks like. This is it. This is how the background look. And this picture going to be worth $1 billion one day. He's going to look back at it. It's like, yes, this is how Ilias lived. He grinded. He did what he had to do. And that's the true spirit. That's what an entrepreneur is. Very simple. 3 words. Able to put 3 different hats: sales, marketing, and creativity. And they got it. And you have to be able to. And you got to do finance, which is self-funded. They do what they have to do. They have side jobs to fund. If nobody going to give you the money, then you go and get the money. It's very simple. If somebody not going to show you the money, you're asking for it, show me the money. They're not showing you the money. You go out there and do what you need to do. Get a job. There's nothing wrong with it. They're getting side jobs. They're what they're good at. And they're funding their own business.
Bob, you know how stubborn we are too.
I know. Trust me. I negotiated with you guys. Believe me. To me, it became a chess game. It became a chess game for me.
If it's not the amount of equity or the valuation that we are, and this is one thing that I think you respect about us too, because the companies that you deal with, they're probably, look, you're a very successful guy. Look at the plaques in your room. That's not to take away from you. You're obviously extremely accomplished. You've been in this space for a long time, and I never want you to think that we don't respect that. We do, but we just know what we want, and we have an idea of what we want. And I hope that at the end of the day, you respect that, and that's at the end of the day all that.
Can you mention some of the people on the board of TaptX? Like who's on the board? I know this. I'm a fan of some of the people that work with you. I like them. I had them on the show. Would you be able to mention? In terms
of the advisors, yeah, we can
talk
about
advisors or board of directors. Yes.
Yeah, so some of the people who are investing are some people from, if you're familiar with Audius, like one of the early people at Audius. We have an exec from Google. That's also really connected to YouTube Music and is funneling us to do stuff with them next year for the B2B side of things. We have a representative from the OVO team, which is Drake's label. We also have Alicia Outridge, who's the CTO at TuneCore. For anybody who doesn't know, that's one of the biggest music distributing companies in the world. She was the CTO, and she actually had her idea 10 years ago, but people just didn't see it at the time, nor did people think the technology was ready for it. And so she had seen this whole vision of what Tapt is building now. And then lastly, we have Quinnell Holder, who's obviously one of the biggest publicists, who's worked for some of the biggest artists of all time, holds a Grammy seat, is in charge of nominating people for the Grammys. I mean, I could go on, and I believe that I'm also missing some people as well, but we have a really solid team. I'm forgetting even Anuj Gupta from First Gen Law, Travis Scott's lawyer. He was also very early on helping out Mark Zuckerberg. And so we have a really solid team of people that are behind us. And that's why I'm not worried, because, even if I slip up or even if I am not pulling my weight for a month or two, the people that we have around us will not allow that to happen. And we have a lot of good people in our corner that are going to ensure that we succeed. The B2C stuff, I think, was really hard for them to pull the strings. But for the B2B, they have all the relationships there. And even now, we've been having a lot of touch points with all the major labels, from Sony, Universal to Warner. We're still talking to them. We still go to their office every now and then. We still meet up with them for coffee. And it's not to say, hey, just talking about Tapt. When it comes to next year, best believe we're going to have them write a check. But even with the major labels, some of the people that offered us money, it was a small amount of money that just wouldn't make sense for the amount of equity that they wanted to come in for, or the valuation of the company. But next year, and as soon as this ends, I'm going to tell you what we're building for the company. And I'm going to give people a hint. It is hardware. So that's the first time people are hearing about it.
We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back before you announce it. You'll announce it on the show. We'll bring you back.
You want me to say right now?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna be building out hardware for the B2B side of TaptX next year. This is the first time we've ever talked about it. We will be bringing this technology to venues for the first time ever in history, in live events history. Nobody has ever done it before. It is extremely feasible. Granted, it will be extremely expensive. And so this is why we are fundraising, because this is something you cannot bootstrap.
What are you fundraising? How much are you fundraising for?
That we are still figuring out the cost, because we're going back and forth with suppliers. And I'm going to show you something. If I can get my backpack, let me get this real quick. So this is actually one of the components. I still have not opened it up yet. So this is not...
I should say, attention, all money holders, all investors.
It's inside this box.
Yes.
It's inside this box. That's the hint that I could give. It's one of the components of something that we're building.
Wow.
That is Very big in the event scene. So if you think of, let's say, a prop when you're thinking of live events, every time you go to a venue, more than likely there is one of these things in that room. And so we are combining a bunch of different things into that to create this new type of technology that has never been seen before. And when that comes to fruition and we go live with that, I really think that will change Tapped forever, and that will make us be seen in a new light, because there also will be a lot more barrier to entry. You know, to build a company like ours, you can't just do it off of building a website and just crawling.
You got to put in the hard work. And you guys put in the footwork too. A lot of hard work and footwork. Yes, absolutely. Well, listen, you heard it first here. A pitch your startup. Ilias Anwar, a true entrepreneur, lives in New York, and him and his partner, and they grinding it with Tapped X. I'm excited about it. I love to hear what they're doing. You know, just having him here, just the energy itself is worth so much for me. I love it. You know, and that's what's being an entrepreneur and having a startup. It doesn't matter in what field you're in. You know, you just come in and pitch your startup with us. Yes, usually it's about 15 to 20 minutes, but you know what? It's Ilias and what he got to say it all. And he, you know, that's what he's on. He's on the show. It's like, you know what? Free marketing. And you know what? We're going to release it tomorrow.
Yeah, you get it.
Yes. Tomorrow we're going to put it out. The show will be out tomorrow for sure.
Appreciate
Definitely. Yes. Again, thank you for joining us today, Ilias, and say hello to your partner. And I guess I'll be seeing you everywhere, as I always do. And this will wrap it up today for Pitch Your Startup. Thank you for listening to us and joining us. And don't forget to follow us on socials and all of that, and give us thumbs up and support. And invest in Ilias's product. Yeah, absolutely. Invest in Tapped X. It's a great thing. What they're doing, nobody's doing. They are changing the industry. Yes, the industry's changing, but they're changing it also. And empowering a lot of performers, from singers, artists, bands, comedians, and other kind of performers, probably. Dancers. I wouldn't be surprised, dancers also. You know, again, thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you, guys.